Has your road been paved with yellow bricks?
I mean, I'm going to be sincere about this. Is that you and I are talking about these albums that are turning 50, and as we're talking about them, it's not just about the one we're going to talk about right now, but when I relate it to the music that was coming out during that time, and I relate this album to the other albums that were coming out, like what was going on?
What's in the water? Right? Like, what are you people drinking?
Well, you're talking 50 years ago, so you're not dealing with social media. You're not dealing with things that can distract you. You're dealing with your craft, your art, and, so we're talking about Elton John today, but specifically, what album are we talking about?
Sir Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, When the Hounds of Society Howl.
So even his 7th album,
Which is crazy.
Yeah, 7th album. And when you play this album, like we were just rocking the album, and every single song, you know it, you've heard it.
Yep.
It's
I know you know.
I think.
All right.
17 tracks on the album?
A lot of songs on an album.
Over 20 million albums sold.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Outrageous.
Major success for sure. I mean, maybe the pinnacle for him in that 70s period in some ways, especially when you take like the 3 pillars of that album, in my opinion. So you have Benny and the Jets, which who doesn't know Benny and the Jets? I mean, I just saw a TikTok the other day of a toddler singing Benny and the Jets. Like, it's still 50 years later, and it's influencing children, you know? And then, so that's the first pillar. The second, of course, being Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I mean, what a great song that is. And then, my favorite on the album, I can remember when I was a kid in the 70s, listening to this going, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to do what he's doing. Yeah. Saturday's All Right for Fighting. I mean, the piano. I mean, maybe like Jerry Lee Lewis, right? Fats Domino. Like, there weren't a lot of people at that moment that were taking the piano as an instrument and making it the lead guitar that was happening with all the rock and roll in that period, right? I mean, it was all, the guitar gods, of the 70s. And here's this guy, just wild, flamboyant, crazy, but with amazing crafted songs.
But let's not forget the key component to this. Elton John, amazing. Amazing. But let's talk about Bernie Taupin.
Well, yeah, you can't move it apart. I mean, it's all one entity.
I mean, the writing,
tremendous.
The guy, how creative the guy can write a song.
Listen, you hear Lennon, McCartney. You hear Jagger, Richards.
Yeah.
Like the songwriting duos, of that period. But those guys need to be in that category. Like when you're talking about songwriters, not just performances.
I like the fact that there's 17 tracks. It's loaded. It's just jam-packed, right? Yeah. And there's songs on there like Candle in the Wind. There's I mean, you think about that was 50 years ago. Not one of my favorite songs on that album, but it sticks out. You've heard it, you know it. And so within movies or with, the certain thing, everything has a Elton John related soundtrack to it.
It's true.
And a lot of it came from, and with all the albums, but a lot of it came from this album.
Do you know the first time Elton John was on my radar? It wasn't even as Elton John. Do you remember when T-Rex came out with Bang a Gong?
Yeah.
One of the greatest rock anthems of all time, right? And you watch that video and you see this crazy looking guy playing the piano for T-Rex. I thought it was T-Rex's piano player. It was Elton John.
I didn't know that.
It was Elton John. Elton John played that part on that song, and I think he played on the album and other parts. But T-Rex, and then at that moment, like T-Rex was it. Like if you were across the pond, as they say, like Mark Bolan was the man. It was T-Rex and David Bowie. They owned that landscape. Who's this little guy playing the piano for T-Rex, who then becomes bigger than T-Rex, It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 50 years, Elton John.
50 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, what a piece of art.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
absolutely. Happy birthday, Elton John. Bye-bye, Yellow Brick Road.